I'm joined here with Elizabeth Sturcken from EDF, who is the managing director for corporate partnerships. Thank you so much for joining me today, Elizabeth.
Be here, Sarah. Thanks a lot.
So, EDF is a nonprofit, and I know that you're committed to climate action. So many climate goals are based around this 2030 milestone. So, I'm curious, how do you see this moment? How are we doing?
Well, we have a decade basically to where corporate climate action is going to make the difference on whether we can address the most damaging effects of climate change. And we really need companies to step up in this decade. We have 6 years now to cut emissions in half. The challenge is huge and daunting, but the positive is that not only is there a huge cost to not addressing climate change, the economic opportunity is huge. It could supercharge the economy by $43 trillion. So there's so much positive upside.
So I think of EDF as one of the major environmental organizations. The Environmental Defense Fund is what EDF stands for. I recognize some people may not be familiar with the work that you do or what you do to engage corporations. Can you tell me a little bit about your work?
Sure. EDF brings science, economics, and partnerships to the most pressing issue of our time, the climate crisis. And we at EDF Plus Business have been working together for 30 years with some of the most signature companies to try and scale sustainability solutions. These are companies like Walmart, FedEx, McDonald's, and the Transform to Net Zero companies. So recently at COP28, we launched the Dairy Methane Action Alliance with Danone and some of the world's largest food companies to address the urgent global issue of dairy methane. So, super excited about our work with companies.
Yeah. I've also heard quite a bit about the Net Zero Action Accelerator. So, what is this? How does it work? And how can the GreenBiz audience benefit from it?
Thanks, Sarah. I'd like to think about our accelerator as the one stop shop for net zero. It is really a bunch of what EDF does best, bringing the best of our science, our policy, and markets expertise, plus partners leading resources such as Deloitte, We Mean Business, Race to Zero, and others. And it's really trying to help companies know what to focus on and how to do it. If you're uncertain about how to achieve your sustainability goals, I think the accelerator can really help you do that. It's netzeroaction.org. It's a free resource. We've trained thousands of people already. There are 25 pathways, 75 action steps covering 6 industries. And the idea is, again, to help companies figure out what to focus on and how to do it.
Yeah, let's get a little bit more specific. Can you give me like an idea of what kind of actions or pathways that you're able to provide for companies that are on this path?
Yeah. Well, when we talk about this decisive decade and the need to act now, I think the most important thing is that companies don't get caught up in all of the regulatory push to disclosure and reporting. That needs to happen. But while companies are doing that, they really need to act now. This is the most urgent thing we need to do. So the accelerator was meant to help companies figure out what to prioritize by sector. If you're in a certain sector, what should you do? How do you go about it? The training, the coaching. Really, it's all about getting action now. I can't keep saying that enough because if we don't do that, we'll be in a really difficult situation. So the choices we make now make a difference. And that's what EDF's trying to do with our Net Zero Action Accelerator.
Yeah. You just noted how important corporations are in making this action happen. And we only have 6 years left, as you noted, to half our emissions. So I also recognize that we're at this sort of like strange economic moment where it feels like some companies are like pulling back or like their teams are shrinking. How are you seeing these two things match up? Like where are companies at right now with their sustainability goals? How bullish are they staying and how what can we do to get them to stay on track even during headwinds?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sarah. I really think it gets down to, you know, making sure that those leading companies are still leading the way. EDF works with those companies trying to figure out what do we need to do to get to net zero. But then it's really about helping others along, right? It's it's pushing that demand signal down your supply chain. I think the Net Zero Action Accelerator can help with that. But however you do it, pulling your suppliers along. And then, like my friend Bill Weil just said, it's policy, right? We've got to raise the floor. We can push the ceiling, but we've got to raise the floor if we're ever going to have a chance of achieving net zero by around mid century.
So, what keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night? That is such a good question. I think the thing that keeps me up at night the most is we who are fighting this fight, um, losing losing that sense of hope and agency and action, right? The most important thing that I can do is touch another person on this journey and bring them along. And I think that it's the next generation, right? It's my children, but it's our peers, it's our colleagues. And it's across this country and across this world. We've got to have that for a just and equitable climate stable world, period.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining me here today and for all of these words of wisdom.
Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate it.